My question to you is, where do you think a story like The Monster of Frankenstein originated?
Of course, we all know the author, Mary Shelley, but the story itself was created from a dare. A dare.
I know, it's crazy. And the ones that created the dare was a group of rich kids on a holiday in a castle by the Swiss Alps.
Kind of sounds like college kids on spring break. It really kind of was.
What I found so fascinating was that almost 200 years ago, we have a similar scenario as of like today.
3 young college-age adults hanging out in a castle by a Swiss lake, bummed out because the winter weather was too cold for them to go out and play.
So they have to stay inside and think of something to do.
God forbid. But let's back up a moment and look at some similarities as well. The contrast of today versus 200 years ago.
Our present-day society of people have a mass communication highway at their fingertips. We have the internet, television, cable, cell phones, online and published newspapers are a means of instant entertainment and communication.
Back in the day of Mary Shelley, Lord Byron and Percy Shelley, the only means of communication and the onset of entertainment like theater was solely created by the written word.
Books, literature, and poems were the home entertainment system. People aspired to read and write, and actually education, especially for the upper classes, such as these we discussed today, gave distinction and grace.
These 3 comrades were writers, were educated, and wrote poems, essays, and especially for Percy and Lord Byron, had brief accomplishments to their names.
Mary Shelley was only 18 years old when she began the tale of Frankenstein.
It's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
The year was 1816. Amongst other subjects, the conversation turned to galvanism and the feasibility of returning a corpse or assembled body parts to life.
And to the experiments of the 18th century natural philosopher and poet Amos Darwin, who was said to have animated dead matter.
Sitting around a log fire at Byron's villa, the company also amused themselves by reading German ghost stories, prompting Byron to suggest that each write their own supernatural tale.
Shortly afterwards, in a waking dream, Mary Godwin Shelley conceived the idea of Frankenstein.
Come in. Come in.
Sit down.
Sit down. You see, it understands. Watch.
The history of galvanism. The effect was named by Alessandro Volta after his contemporary, the scientist Luigi Galvani, who investigated the effect of electricity on dissected animals in the 1780s and 90s.
Galvani himself referred to the phenomenon as animal electricity, believing that he had discovered a distinct form of electricity.
Volta, on the other hand, claimed that the reputed animal electricity was due to an interaction between the metals used to mount and dissect the frog's leg.
And in 1800, before the Royal Society in London announced the voltaic cell or pile, essentially the battery.
The modern study of Galvan effects in biology is called electropsychology, the term galvanism being used only in historical context now.
The term is also used to describe the bringing to life of organisms using electricity, as shown in Mary Shelley's work Frankenstein, which was influenced by galvanism, and people still speak of being galvanized into action.
The concept of galvanism was recently explored by a scientist named Garnet Hertz when he conducted an experiment.
A miniature web server was implanted in the body of a frog specimen, which was suspended in a clear glass container.
Through an Ethernet cable connection to the embedded web server, remote viewers could trigger movement in either the right or left leg of the frog, thereby updating Luigi Galvani's original 1786 experiment, causing the legs of a dead frog to twitch by simply touching muscles and nerves together with metal.
Would you like one of my flowers? You have those, and I'll have these. I can make a boat. See how mine floats? No, you're hurting me! No!
Shelley began writing what she assumed would be a short story. With Percy Shelley's encouragement, she expanded the tale into a full-fledged novel.
She later described that summer in Switzerland as the moment when I first stepped out from childhood into life.
Byron managed to write just a fragment based on the vampire legends he heard while traveling the Balkans. And from this, John Polidori created the Vampire 1819, the basis of the romantic vampire literary genre. Thus, two legendary horror tales originated from this one circumstance.
That's a bit of history right there, but Modern Prometheus is the novel subtitle, though some modern publishings of the work now drop the subtitle, mentioning only in an introduction.
Prometheus, in some versions of Greek mythology, was the Titan who created mankind. It was also Prometheus who then secretly took fire from heaven and gave it to man.
When Zeus discovered this, he eternally punished Prometheus by fixing him to a rock, where each day a predatory bird came to devour his liver, only for the liver to regrow the next day, ready for the bird to come again until Hercules releases him.
Prometheus was also a myth told in Latin, but was a very different story. In this version, Prometheus makes man from clay and water, again a very relevant theme to Frankenstein, as Victor rebels against the laws of nature, how life is naturally made.